And welcome to another edition of That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Today, we're going to be talking with Rocky Romanella, CEO of 360 Management Services and author of the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. Rocky, welcome to the program today.
Hey, good morning, Jamie. It's great to be back and great to talk to you and your audience.
Yeah, Rocky, a returning guest to the program. Spent 36 years in UPS, working his way up from basic laborer all the way up into upper management. And, they really taught him, how to lead, as an individual. And so, Rocky, I'll let you share a little bit of that story with the audience.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. I mean, I started out June 15th, 1976 as a part-time loader-unloader, working my way through college, and UPS had a great promotion from within policy. I was paying my way through school, and I took advantage of that policy. And as I worked my way up through the organization, a couple ideas or a couple of things my dad taught me early on and spoke to me about when I first took the job. That was, whatever they ask you to do, say yes. And then as you get your job, learn your job, and then learn some more. So that always kind of stuck in my background. And so as UPS was presenting me with opportunities through the promotion from within policy, and at times I wondered, am I ready for it? Do I have the skill sets to do these things? And all I could think about in the background was my dad saying, whatever they ask you to do, say yes. And thank you. So I said, yeah, so if you think we're ready to do this, let's go do it. And so I got an opportunity to move across the country, and we moved 9 times, and then I ended my career in our corporate office in Atlanta. So it was an opportunity to grow and develop inside an organization. And one of the things I like to point out is there are many times along the way where UPS had more faith in me than I had in myself. And I think about leadership today, and I write about it in the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts. That's really what leaders do. They believe in their people until their people are ready to believe in themselves. And that's how you bridge that gap of growth and maturity or skills and confidence, is by working for people. And hopefully you're that type of leader that has enough confidence in their people and has that confidence in their people until they're ready to have confidence in themselves. And so I think that to me was such an important lesson as I look back. Of course, I didn't realize it that way when I was going through it or articulated it that way as I was going through it. But I thought a lot about that during those days when I wondered, was I ready? Did I have the skills to do it? UPS had that faith and confidence in me. And so as I grew as a leader, I always tried to make sure that I could be that person that could have the faith and confidence in my people until they were ready to have it in themselves.
You mentioned a point there that your dad always taught you just to say yes and just do it. My father was similar. He always told me just do it, don't complain. And that's something that resonates with me today. And it's something I see our younger generations that are kind of going away from that model. They're more questioning. They're more adverse to leadership. And I understand that they have their place in society. But I really think it's a detriment to the workforce whereby they don't respect their leaders. How would you advise?
Well, I think that there's a little bit of a balance there. I think that today's generation in many ways are much more prepared than certainly I was in 1976. And then if you think about it from this perspective, in my generation, if the question was asked, do you need UPS or do you need your job or does your job need you? I would say, I need my job. That's how we were brought up. Got to get a job, got to take care of my family, got to put food on the table. And I think the next generation was the opposite way, frankly, where they would say, no, the company needs me. I've got so much to offer. I think this generation, I find interestingly and more preparedly, is a little bit of both. And I think sometimes they question just because they want to connect dots. And I think if you can take the time to maybe explain, for example, when, I would be told on a Monday, hey, your new assignment is Des Moines, Iowa. You have to be there tomorrow for an interview. I mean, yeah, I packed my bag and, said to Deb, but hey, I got an interview in Des Moines and we're moving, and didn't think anything about that other than, okay, I got a job. I need a job. It's a great opportunity for me. Whatever they ask you to do, say yes and thank you. I think today's generation, though, I think that they're willing to do those things in many cases, but they ask the question first. Okay, well, what is it? How does this work? What does this do for me? Is there a path forward for me? And so I think if you can take the time, especially with those really talented individuals who really want to do well, they're just more inquisitive. I think it's because they're much more prepared through technology and through social media. But I do think if you take the time, I found managing that group, if you take the time to help them connect the dots, more of them are interested in participating and being part of the workforce. And some of them have a lot of our old work ethics and style. It's just they just do it in a little bit more of an inquisitive way or a questioning way. And so I start off believing it's not in questioning to be, from an adverse perspective or questioning my leadership or my my authority. I start off by believing, okay, this generation wants to know why and how did the dots connect. If I can do a good job of showing them vision, of giving them the vision, most of them then are like, okay, I can see why then you want me to do this, or why am I taking a lateral move when I really thought I was ready for the next promotion? Well, because I think you need this skill set, yet you don't have. I think this move will help you get that skill set. I think that's a little bit of their questioning.
Now, today you're CEO of 360 Management Services after 36 years spent in UPS. What was that catalyst to move outside of a traditional corporate world into entrepreneurship?
Well, it's funny. I had one in-between move there, and I think that move was probably the biggest catalyst, right? So I retired from UPS after 36 years, and then I went on to take a role as a CEO and a board member of a publicly traded company, a small telecom company in Pennsylvania. And, we had, I came on board and we had some issues, and unfortunately, they were issues from prior to me, but now I'm handed this situation, and so I had to play the hand I was dealt and made a decision to stay on to shepherd the company to a better place, and we sold the company private equity, and the company's doing well. But there's a couple things that it taught me there, is that if I was going to do something, I wanted to do it with people that I had great faith in, that our values, our integrity, our culture were all the same. And I felt like, can I leave this concept of legacy? In the book, I talk a lot about legacy. And I talk about, do you leave it a little better place than you found it? Are people better because of their time with you? Are your customers better because of their interactions with your company? And I felt like this 360 gave me the opportunity to do that. In 360, we do three core things. One of which is public speaking, keynote speaking, motivational speaking, of which I do. And so I feel like that gives me a chance to leave legacy, to do some training and educating and try to touch, bring important concepts to the groups that are looking for a speaker. And so I enjoy doing that. And I feel like that's part of that legacy. We do leadership training, and we run day-and-a-half workshops, half-day workshops. In fact, I'm doing workshops in conjunction with Seton Hall University up here in New Jersey. We did 2 last week on a concept of why values matters in business. And if you think about what's going on with Uber and Wells Fargo and all these companies, you wonder, how do they get themselves in trouble? So that's one of the topics I really like to talk a lot about, why values matter. And then the third core or leg of our stool is this consulting. And so I felt like, for me, with 40 years of experience, could I leave a little bit of a legacy? Could I still impact people, and could I still leave it a little better place than I found it? And so we started 360 with some former partners from UPS, and we said, you know what, let's see. We still have a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm. We got a lot of knowledge and talent that we've accumulated over the years. Can we leave it a little better place than we found it? Can we still contribute back? And can we kind of say thank you for all the training and development we received along the way by giving back to other people and other organizations?
And today you've written the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts, the Principles of Balanced Leadership. When did you draw inspiration to write the book?
Well, I started doing my speaking, and I always thought about doing a book, but I felt like the book and the public speaking and the keynote speakings really worked well together. And frankly, as I was doing my speaking, I had a lot of stories I would tell during my speaking, and I always try to make it, as you said in the introduction, it's business, but you have to have a little bit of fun doing it. It's got to be a little bit entertaining, right? I mean, hard work without enthusiasm is just that hard work. That's all. So I always try to be enthusiastic. I try to always bring a story so that it's easier for people to relate to. But why not have a little fun doing it? We work hard enough. And so as I was telling all these stories relating to the different concepts, I thought to myself, you know what? I started writing them down, and I thought, wow, you know what? Can I put together a book that can, be a good read, an educational read, a fun read, but one that would kind of be my legacy, or the legacy that I participated in through my career.
And the book tells the story of a fictional character, Joe Scafone, correct?
Yeah, Joe Scafone. Joe Scafone has been a character with me for 40 years. It started out early on as sort of I told the Joe Scafone joke, and everybody kind of laughed. And then Joe became the way for me to ask good questions without making people feel awkward or, making them feel bad about maybe a presentation that they made. So, for example, if, Jamie, you were presenting something at a meeting and maybe I thought you could have done it differently or looked at it differently, when I say it to you as maybe the boss or the leader and say, hey, maybe you could have done it differently, you may look at it as, wow, he's unhappy, or he may not view it as a good idea. When I would say, hey, you know what, Jane, what do you think? Do you think Joe Scafone would think that's a good idea? You think Joe would think that's the right thing to do? And everybody would kind of smile and laugh. But it was a way for me to challenge them to go past that first right answer. And I think that's one of the things that really defines great leadership is, do you move past the first right answer? Many people stop at the first right answer. And although that may be the first right answer, if you can push yourself past that first right answer, there may be a better answer with a longer term opportunity behind it, but you have to push yourself, and most people just stop. So for me, Joe Scafone allowed me the opportunity to question, to push people maybe past that first right answer, to challenge them to be the best that they can be, but without being intimidating or without making them feel bad about it. And so Joe, we kind of breathed life into Joe over 40 years. And it would be funny, people would come into meetings that knew me and would say to me, hey, I covered this with Joe already. Joe thinks this is a good idea. So Joe Scafone had we breathed life into Joe Scafone, and I just thought it was a natural way for me to go through the book and go through some of the concepts of the book with my pal Joe Scafone helping me through.
Well, we'll share a couple of those stories and also get into the principles of a balanced leadership here in the second part of the interview when we come back from the break. Currently talking to Rocky Romanella, CEO of 360 Management Services, and learn more at the website 360managementservices.com. It's the number 3 and 60managementservices.com. We'll be back in a moment on That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney. Welcome back to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business. Today, we're talking with Rocky Romanella, CEO of 360 Management Services, about his book, Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. After spending 36 years at the UPS and working his way up, he's learned a thing or two about leadership. And in this book, you can learn a lot about leadership. So I highly recommend you pick up a copy of the book, which tells the story of the fictional character, Joe Scafone. So, Rocky, share a story with us about the book and a couple of these principles that readers can get from your book.
Well, I'll start with the title, Tighten the Lug Nuts. There's a story inside the book where I was going out to, which was one of the things I love to do the most, was go out and visit an operation and walk through the operation and see our people, smile, and thank them for all they do on behalf of our company. But I also had a purpose in this walk because we had a situation going on where we had one of the reports that had to get filled out every day. An important report wasn't really getting filled out correctly or completely, and so I was looking for the supervisor that had that responsibility, and each building was evaluated based on the results of that. And so, my goal was always to find the right individual and then say to them, look, someone's going to be the best at this, why not you? And kind of motivate them and support them to kind of challenge themselves, to someone be that leader, someone be the best at it, why not you kind of concept. As I was walking to see him, I saw that, some of the vehicles, one of them looked like loose lug nuts. So I went over, kind of checked them, and sure enough, they were a little bit loose, which is not unusual from all the miles you put on and the bouncing around. So I grabbed that individual and I say, hey, look, I got a really important job for you. You're the right person for it. I think you can make a difference in our business. I said, but before that, there's some loose lug nuts over there. And he kind of smiled and said, okay, but quickly got right into it. So what do you need me to do? I'm your person. I can't wait to get this done. He was so excited about being, kind of challenged and be the person we tapped on the shoulder to get it done. So we talked about how to get it done. Well, a few days later, I was looking to check in on, see how he was doing. I said to him, how's things going? He said, I got no luck. Things never go my way. I can't believe it. Just when I was trying to get some stuff done, I get a phone call that, we can't drive this one vehicle because it looks like the front wheel's loose. I said, well, is that the one I pointed out to you? He said, yeah. I go, well, didn't you tighten the lug nuts? He said, well, no. I said, well, I said they were loose. He said, well, I got so caught up in this other thing being the most important thing. And so that lesson to me became such a valuable lesson that when things are important, you have to take care of them. And it would have taken 5 minutes to tighten those lug nuts. But now that he allowed important things to become urgent, you can only juggle so many urgent things. And so then what ends up happening is you get overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden you start to get this, I get no luck, nothing ever goes my way. Well, you created that set of circumstances. So, one of the lessons there is tighten the lug nuts. Take care of important things when they're important so they don't become urgent. I mean, without getting into politics and Republican, Democrat, think about it. Mitch McConnell comes out saying that, oh, maybe the president had an unrealistic expectation of all of the bills and legislative process. Well, you had 7 years. You had loose lug nuts when you weren't in office. Now all of a sudden you're in office, and now you're saying, well, it's just way too much. Well, you should have tightened the lug nuts along the way, and now important things are now urgent. And it's the same with the Democrats. I mean, they're sitting there now with all these different ideas and going through their process. But are they tightening lug nuts, or at some point, if they come back in power, is it going to be, well, we're not really ready to govern? Why? Well, we didn't tighten the lug nuts. So the concept of tightening the lug nuts. I mean, as a kid in school, we always waited till Friday night, Thursday night to study for the Friday final and wondered why we were overwhelmed or didn't get it done. So everybody procrastinates. But that procrastination in business and in life can really become a serious problem. So the goal is tighten the lug nuts. Take care of important things when they're important, and don't allow them to become urgent, because you can only handle so many urgent things. So that's one of the lessons, and of course served to be an excellent, I thought, title for the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts and the Principles of Balanced Leadership. So.
Who did you write the book for? Is this for anybody in any type of management position? Is this for young millennials or seasoned leaders looking to step up in leadership? I mean, who's was the book written for in mind?
Well, initially the concept was, it's a leadership type of book. But then I took a step back, I thought to myself, well, we're all leaders at one time or another. I mean, and I think for me, for example, there's no greater leaders than teachers. If you think about it from the perspective, if I said to you, hey, Jamie, I wonder, who, if you ask your audience, who are your state representatives, or who are, who's the local mayor or whatever, most people can't tell you that. But if you said to a person, hey, who is that teacher that made a difference in your life? Everybody can stop and tilt their head and say, oh, 5th grade, Mrs. So-and-so, or 6th grade, Mr. So-and-so. So everybody has that teacher who makes a difference in their life. And so, to me, leadership's about making a difference. Leadership's about touching people, giving vision, helping, people develop themselves. You're developing. And so all of us are leaders. Now, I would say, from a principal perspective, yeah, it's probably really focused on leaders. I think it's great for all the kids, all my daughters and sons. I have all daughters and sons in the 26 to 34 range, and their friends just love it because they kind of take it as a blueprint of going forward. Okay, what are the things you do, and how do you approach things, and how do you get to a 40-year career? Well, there was a lot of bumps along the way, and some of those stories helped them. So I was very happy that the millennials that have read it and have emailed me really enjoyed it and kind of help feel it's a blueprint. But the book is really about leaders, and if you think about it, we're all leaders. We influence people, like I said, teachers. So I think the book's a great read for everyone, and I think there's some great stories in there. My second, one of my favorite stories in the book, a lot talks about my wife, Debbie. And my greatest lesson, one of the greatest lessons in the book for me was something she had said. We were out to dinner one night, and we met a new couple, and they were talking to us, and the woman says to Debbie, hey, 4 kids, one of them has to be your favorite. And so Debbie says, no, none of them are my favorite. And she said, no, come on, one of them has to be your favorite. So I'm kind of looking at Deb to see, I'm thinking, I'll see how she answers this one, right? And she's like, no, they're all my favorite. In fact, they all think they're my favorite. And so the woman said, well, I don't understand it. What do you mean? She said, each of them gets what they need when they need it. And I thought, that's brilliant. I mean, I never really articulated that way or thought of that way. When I thought about how she, parents or her relationship with the kids, it makes sense to me now. But I thought about that. Each of them gets what they need when they need it. So at that moment, they do feel like they're the favorite. And of course, over the years, each of them had those moments, and they all, they probably all would say, yeah, I'm mom's favorite. So I thought about that in business. And so from that point forward, when I managed, I thought about it that way. When you're managing organizations, you have different people working for you. Each of them have different skills. Each of them are at different places in their development. And so some people are really skilled and have experience. So what they need is confidence, support, but they don't need to be overmanaged. So you let them run. You give them what they need to be successful, right? Then you have people that are just coming on board. They just may have started this new position. They don't have the confidence or the experience. Well, what they need is more of your time and more of your effort. And so from that point forward, I manage my operations with the thought of each function in my organization or each person under my care gets what they need when they need it. And so you think about it from that perspective, and to me that was brilliant. I thought it was, it made such sense, and it came from the heart, right? When you manage, when people realize that what you manage from the heart, I think it makes such a difference. It gives you such credibility, and so that was a lesson that I used, and so that's a lesson that can transcend business. That could be a great life lesson for individuals or people or families. So I think that the book is more than a business book. It's really a leadership book, and at some point, all of us have someone in our care, someone we're mentoring, someone we're influencing. So by that extension, we're all leaders.
I like how you draw the analogy that, or not the analogy, but the point that we are all leaders, and it's not associated with, leading a company or being some tremendous, figure in business or associating it with money. We are all leaders in some capacity. So I think that's an excellent point to derive from your book. Again, Tighten the Lug Nuts, the Principles of Balanced Leadership. We got a couple of minutes left. What has writing the book done for you as a leader?
It's really helped me take inventory of some, you don't really realize how many things you've learned along the way or how many wonderful people that have been an influence on you. So it gave me an opportunity to thank a lot of people. Obviously, when I wrote the book, I really spent time thinking about and recognizing my dad, rest his soul, who was such a great influence in my life growing up. I mean, besides the two things I told you, Jamie, when he said to me, say thanks and say yes and thank you and learn your job, learn some more. I think one of the most important things he said to me, it's what you do when no one's watching that counts. And I thought about that. And of course I laughed when he told me, because I said, Dad, that's the best part. No one's watching. And he said, not two people are always watching. The man upstairs and you always look in the mirror, right? So that was a great lesson. And of course, Debbie, there's a lot in Debbie, but I also thought about all those other individuals who influenced me along the way, and then took the time to maybe write them a note or reach out to them or recognize them as well. So I think that was, for me, was sort of not a closure, but gave me the opportunity to take inventory of how blessed and lucky I've been to deal with such wonderful people along the way who took the time to put their arm around me, maybe walk me around the building, say, hey, kid, get here, come here a minute. That's not the way you do it. This is a better way, or this is the right way to do it. This is how, this is the approach you should take. And all those, mentoring and conversations along the way, I could have came off the path, but they kind of kept me back. They kept me in the guardrails. And I think that it gave me that chance to thank them and recognize them and take a moment to think of them as well. So availability of the book, where can people pick it up? It's on Amazon. Amazon has been doing a great job. I mean, we've had great sales. July was one of our best months, so that's been a great feeling. But Amazon, online, and Barnes & Noble online. And then our website, www.360managementservices.com. There's a link there. You can click right on there. You can learn more about our company, learn more about some of our advisors, but learn what we do from a training and speaking perspective, but also order the book from our website as well. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Twitter. I think we're on Instagram. I got to get better at the social media, but I'm better off talking to you, Jamie, than I am all the social media stuff. I know I need to do better, but yeah, Barnes and Noble, but Amazon online has been really fantastic. It's been quick, and I've really enjoyed it. And please feel free to go to our website and send me comments, and of course, as you know, nothing's better than the Amazon review. So if you can read the book and put up some reviews, that really helps as well. All right, we'll get a link to the book also in the show notes on this program as well. So Rocky Romanella, thank you so much for being with me on the program today. Good job. Great job as well. Hey, I love listening to your program as well. So you've done a fantastic job, and all the luck and congratulations. It's good to see good things happening for good people.
All right. Thank you so much. Again, Rocky Romanella, CEO 360 Management Services and author of the book, Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership. And learn more, 360managementservices.com. Catch new episodes each weekday morning at 9 a.m. on thatbusinessnetwork.com. And please connect with us all across social media, facebook.com/thatbusinessshow. And also on Twitter @thatbizshow. So you've been listening to That Business Show 2.0 with your host, Jamie Maloney, where business becomes show business.